My guest today is Jess Isaacson, a prominent international cutwoman who is based out of Ireland. Jess has been a professional cutwoman for over 14 years. She is also the owner of Inside Out Care, a professional cut team hired to work a variety of combat sporting events. Hi, everyone. This is Paula V. You are now watching The Corner with Paula V. I have a very, very important guest, cutwoman Jess, aka Jess Isaacson. You've been in the business for a very long time. And I've looked at a few of the interviews that you've done previously on other podcasts and other TV programming. Give me a brief history on how you started and what led you into being a cult woman.
I get asked this so many times. Basically, I come from a martial arts background. I'm doing it since I was like 4. And I had a break, obviously, when I had my daughter. I stopped fighting, I stopped training, like you do, life gets in the way. And I found Muay Thai then in around about maybe 15 odd years ago. I wish I had found it earlier, obviously, but I come from a background where it's sort of like Wadaroo, it's similar to combat karate. So it's got, you know, a bit of like Muay Thai, MMA, judo, all mixed in together. Thai sort of suited me. I like the stand up. I like sweeps. I like, you know, elbows and knees and stuff. Yeah. So I started training again, and I injured my hands a few times in training. Would you believe? More so ever than in the ring.
Wow.
In training. Yeah. So I sort of wanted to learn to wrap hands to protect my hands, because obviously I was a lot older when I found it anyway. So, you know, I knew that, you know, chances are I didn't have long. If I did want to fight, there was not a huge Muay Thai scene for females back then in Ireland. So I knew it was never going to be like a long-term thing, but I wanted to keep my hands as safe as I could, so that even if I wasn't fighting, that I could continue to train in the sport.
Right.
So I wanted longevity in it. And that's basically how it sort of came about. I had wrapped a few sort of hands in the gym, you know, but I really wasn't like sort of doing it for, and I'd watched a lot of people at shows when I've been, you know, cornering and fighting myself, and I'd seen other hand wrappers and cut people do hand wraps. So I sort of got a little bit fascinated by it, and learning how to do it correctly. And that's sort of how it started. That's how I got started as a cut woman. Yeah. And I just happened to see a cut team at a show and ask about it. And then I started working with them, and a couple of years into the sort of job, I ended up like that, having to do a course because, you know, they were stopping being grandfathered in and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I've been doing it now for probably the guts of like 14 years, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's about that now. Yeah, 2010. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
you're
not
OG.
Too. Well, I don't know about OG, but I definitely feel like I'm older.
Yeah, I've only been doing it for 2 years, and I just literally just started. I've done boxing for fitness, but not for anything else. And so I've always had my hands wrapped by the trainer or the coach. I never, to this day, I don't even know how to wrap my own hands. And I know that's one of my mentors has said, you have to practice on yourself to see how it feels. And so that's something I do have to start doing. So I can pretty much understand how it feels for them. And that way I know how to make it tighter or looser or whatever. But I constantly ask them, how does it feel? How does it feel? Because I don't have that, but I'm going to start doing that, practicing on myself.
Oh, I did. I've always done my own hands since day up. Always. I can wrap my own set of hands in probably about 8 minutes flat, give or take.
Wow. Okay, that's my goal. I'm going to put that on.
Yeah, it's a really good way. It's a really good way to practice and really feel the difference, you know, that way. And be able to make those adjustments, because like fighters are so particular, and they really are when it comes to their hand wraps.
They really are.
Yeah, and there is so many nicks and tucks you can do without compromising the structure of the wrap. to make
Absolutely.
them feel comfortable. But I have often over the years cut off a set of wraps and redone them many,
Yes.
many times. And
Hmm.
I'm not offended by that either. You
No.
know, this is part and parcel of the game that we're in. So,
Yeah, for sure. I've done that also. Even if I can tell sometimes now that I've been doing it for so long, I can tell when it's not right. I don't
mhm,
even they don't even have to tell me, you know what, it's too tight or what. I can literally tell and I will just
mhm,
start all over. That's why I give myself when I'm at a pro fight, I give myself extra time because I know that might be something that may happen. So
mhm,
it also lets me, I'm more serene and calm for them because I know they're in another space. And then that way I have enough time. And if it's not right, I know I can cut it off and
mhm,
start over
mhm,
without messing up our time schedule. So, but yeah,
mhm.
I have done that several times. I know you have done boxing, MMA, and Muay Thai. You've done
Mhm.
events for all of those. Do you,
Bare knuckle,
oh, you've
kickboxing,
done bare
taekwondo,
knuckle
yeah,
also.
everything. Yeah,
Do
we've
you,
done a bit
is
of
there a
everything.
difference amongst the different combat sports, or for you it's all basically which one for you is more intense as a cult woman? I know bare knuckle, you probably have more injuries with bare knuckle.
You don't really, actually, to be honest with you.
Mm,
People say they think they feel it's going to be worse, but actually, I don't find that because generally in bare knuckle boxing, they hit that little. They don't hit as hard because they don't have the protection. So I
right.
think it's a subconscious thing for them more than it is. Now, don't get me wrong; they do hit hard,
Yeah.
obviously. It's quite apparent. However, like you are sort of like you can't stop your brain from telling you not to do something that it's not supposed to be doing.
Right.
Um, I found in the bare knuckle that the majority of the cuts were ones that reopened. They were all cuts with bad scar tissues. Newer
Ah,
cuts weren't as bad as what I might have got in Thai or even some of the really high profile pro MMA fights. So I didn't find it any different. I find that Thai fights hugely get bigger cuts
wow. Okay.
because, you know, once a Thai fighter opens you up, they will generally go for that cut
Keep going.
every.
Exactly.
It's like a red rag to a bull with a Thai fighter. Do you know the way? And if your fighter that you're working on that big cut doesn't do their job to
Hmm.
keep it protected, then you know sometimes you can't do your job,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it is sort of part and parcel of the game.
It's
You
true.
know, yeah, it is one of those things. Like, but I find that generally Thai, I get more, and I'm more excited about the cuts. But I have had some major ones in MMA,
Wow.
and the bare knuckle. You know, it's one of those things. You know, it's going to be more gruesome. It's going to be more bloody because it's
Hmm.
all your face.
Yeah.
You know, it is literally all your face, which is where, you know, you look like you bleed the most. It looks more barbaric than most of the other sports do
Right.
because
There's
of the
more
way.
blood vessels there.
Mm. And
Hmm.
of course, if you know your job and, you know how to make sure they're camera ready and
Yes.
it looks good, then it does help for people to understand the sport. It isn't barbaric.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a common misconception that cut people, men and women, whoever's in the corner, they have say so on when to stop the fight or when to they don't realize that the fight doctor, they're right in the corner, right there over your shoulder, and sometimes they take over and they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones that have say so. We don't have say so at
Mm-hmm.
all. We just
Yeah, that's the biggest explanation I have for people when they ask me about stopping a fight.
mm,
Yes, we cannot stop a fight on any sport.
right.
You know, but you build up, like I would have a very strong connection with a lot of the doctors I work with.
Yeah.
And like doctors and nurses, a lot of doctors and nurses don't make good cut men or women. And the reason being, and I say it all the time, is because doctors and nurses train, they're given the luxury of time to learn a skill.
Yes.
As a cut woman and a cut man, we don't have that luxury. We have about 45 seconds in total to get in, to stem the flow, and to make it
Yes.
look as best we can so that a doctor doesn't have to come in and stop that fight. Now, obviously, when it comes to certain types of cuts, you know, if I feel a cut is really bad, I will ask a doctor to look over my shoulder. But
Mm.
let me do my little bit of work first and
Yes.
see if I can save it. And then if 110% that doctor, whether it be male or female, decides that it's a no-go for that fight, then that's okay. I'm good
Yeah.
with that. Do you know what I mean? But let's give them, especially on the pro level, let's give them a fighting chance, to continue that. And it's why we sort of say helping the fighter go the distance. It's sort of a logo we have with my team, is that we will do our best to keep you fighting. But if we do feel like, and especially with the amount of experience we've had over the years, if we do feel that it's something that we think is extremely bad, I would have no issues with saying to the doctor, would you just take a look at this while I'm working on it?
Yeah. Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure. And
yeah.
that's sort of how I got into it. I'm a nurse. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to train my brain. Okay, you only have 45 seconds. You don't have the luxury to assess, diagnose, and treat.
Mm-hmm.
You only have 40 seconds
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
just stop, you just do your compression, stop the whatever bleeding there is, and keep it moving. And I do have
Mm-hmm.
to retrain my brain to not, I don't have all the time in the world to do that.
And so many people don't understand that. They
Yeah.
think a lot of people think they can do like a 1 day or 2 day course, and then they should automatically be certified to work in a ring or a cage. And it's
No.
like, it actually just makes me laugh sometimes. Like, the thing is the only people who really notice that is the other cut men and women,
Right.
because they understand the job you're doing. So a
Right.
lot of the promoters and even doctors don't see the difference to a degree unless they are continuously working shows where they've worked with a lot of cut people over the years and they've
Yeah.
seen a lot of it. But doctors and nurses don't take notice, or paramedics at a show. They don't take a huge amount of notice in between rounds because they do understand that that is the cut person's job to do it.
Yeah.
And it's only if they're needed in there that then they realize, okay. But then you get some doctors who are so involved in it that they want to know about it. Like, we get lots of doctors asking us questions as a team and as individual cut men and women. Like,
Yeah.
why do you use this? Or how do you treat it with that? Or why do you use this and he uses this? Like,
Right.
what's the difference? And I say all the time, a lot of time it's preference. A lot of time it's, you sometimes have to be an octopus within that, and you have multiple things to deal with. And you want to deal with the worst of the worst before worrying about the stuff that is minor comparison, something that's going to stop a fight. And they have the brain that, like, we should assess it and then treat it. We just don't have that. We have to treat and assess as we go.
Right. Right.
So for me, it's all about working together with the doctors as well to make sure that they understand what you're doing and you also understand what they're doing.
Right. Right. For sure. One of the questions that I've been asking my guests, and it's pretty much the topic of the podcast, is how, in your opinion, what do you feel is the impact or influence of women in combat sports?
So, like, I think going forward, like the last couple of years, there has been a great movement with women joining combat sports. And I mean, in the official capacity as and such. I'm not talking about fighters, because we have a huge amount of female fighters now coming through all ranks, right through from like the IMAFs for MMA or the World Cup, the Boxing World Cups, or you have like the Muay Thai, the WMO, all those big competitions. So there's women coming through on all levels at the moment, and they are some of the best fighters in the world, some of the most exciting fighters in the world. I mean, I personally love seeing the girls fight, absolutely love it. On the official side of things, where you're talking about refs, judges, cut women, doctors, paramedics, even media, even down to commentators and the support staff, if that's what you want to call them. I feel like there's still not enough of a draw for women yet. It is climbing slowly. Like, when I started, there was little to no women about. Like, literally, there was probably only the guts of maybe 3 or 4 cut women on the scene. So we have got a huge amount more. And even in my team, I have half men, half women.
Yes, I see
and there's
that.
10 plus. So we have got a huge amount now that are coming through. However, I still on the international scene,
Hmm.
I still don't think there's enough. I still don't think we have been given enough places. And I do feel actually going back to your interview with Andrea or
Hmm.
Andrea, is it Andrea? She said she
Andrea.
pronounced Andrea. Um, and she did say something right, is that, when it comes to women in the sport, like it is so much harder for us to prove ourselves where we
Yes.
shouldn't have to. You
Yes.
know, our
Yes.
work should speak for itself, and it
Yep.
doesn't always resonate like that. And I've had to fight my way a lot of the time at the early stages of my career to get that, respect from the fighters and the promoters. And like
Hmm.
I've often had promoters saying to me, like, oh, can you do it for this price?
Yeah.
And I'm like, would you ask my male counterpart that? And
I
don't get
was
me wrong, I
just
don't
wondering
do
about
any
that.
fight shows for money. I never have done. Money doesn't equate for me.
Yes.
It's the same in my personal job at home in Ireland. If I'm not happy in my job, I will not stay in my job. I,
Exactly.
I chose to follow the path of doing cuts because I absolutely love it. I love taking care of people. I
Yes.
love being in the world I'm in. I love making sure that people, are healthy, happy, and they go home as safe as I can possibly. And if I'm a small part of that journey, amazing. But for a promoter to come to me and say, can you do it for this price, knowing that
Yes.
I know that my male counterpart is getting more. And I understand there's a pay gap, but my work 10 times better than some of
Yeah.
my male counterparts. And I like that's not me being egotistical in any way, shape, or form, because that's not the type of person I am.
Right.
But it is us women, sometimes men will say we do take care of them a lot better. And that's
Yes.
another point that Andrea sort of sat down a little bit and talked about. I get that quite a lot, and
Yes.
have done the last sort of 10 years, where a lot of fighters have said to me that they feel much better in my chair. They feel much better, more comfortable with me in the corner.
Yes.
Um, and they've even asked me in the corner on many occasions, like, is it okay? Is it bad? And they know I'm going to tell them the truth. The truth is look, it's a cut. A cut is a cut is a cut. You get in here, I'm very black and white. You get in here to fight.
Yes.
I'll do my magic if you do your magic.
You're absolutely right. I've been getting that quite often, and I know I'm a bit OCD and very detailed when it comes to my work. I've heard it a few times, Paula, your work is stellar, your work is this, but I am very hard on myself because I know I have to be 5 times as better as anyone else because I am being watched more. I am being taken for granted. My work has to speak for itself because as a woman, I'm already starting in the negative. So
No, 100%. I'm the same and I still to this day,
yeah.
it's still like there's still a bit of that goes on within
Oh yeah.
promotion. Absolutely. Like I know there's people doing shows that I know shouldn't be anywhere near that level of show. And I see it and I understand it,
Yes.
and it's a game of politics. I don't play the game of politics. Don't get me wrong. If I'm invited to work on with a boxer or with a MMA promotion or whatever, amazing. I'll come in, I'll do my job, I'll do it my way because it's the way it works. Don't get me wrong. Every day's a
Right.
school day for me. If I pick up something off somebody else, that's a bonus
Yes.
every time, whether it be male or female, whether it be a doctor, a paramedic, a referee, a judge. It really doesn't matter who it comes from. For me, every day is a school day. I learn something new every single time.
Yep. Yep. I'm constantly the student, always the
Mm-hmm.
student.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I have a fight, I'm always looking back at it. What could I have done better? What didn't I do? I'm even looking at my raps. I'm constantly asking them before, during, and after, are your hands okay? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly learning and I want to always correct myself to be better.
Mm-hmm.
I've had promoters, trainers, fighters, other when I'm working, they come and they're watching me. And I know
Mm-hmm.
one, it's half because some will say it. I've never seen a woman rap before, not in a pro fight, or um,
Mm-hmm.
the others, I think they're just wanting to see if I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like too well, which is makes me extra vigilant to make sure I do a good job. So
Hmm.
I'm always hard on myself because I know we have that extra eyes on us.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
and that'll be forever and ever. It's not something that goes away. I
yeah,
mean, the hope would be that it would lessen as time goes, and it has a little bit, but like that, even now when I'm in like I recently did a BOI champ, one of the boxers I look after, Rudy.
mhm,
He fought for another Irish title there
yeah,
on the Jamie Conlon boxing show there that was on the Zone just a while ago,
yeah,
and took the belt for a second time. But even still, and I've been around the boxing game for a long time, even still, I had coaches and cornermen come in and look and thing, and I take no heed. I do me, and I just do me, and that's the end of it.
exactly. I literally,
Yeah, I
I just
literally
have to
just do
tune it
me.
out. I just tune it out and I
Yeah,
just keep doing what I'm doing. And someone will afterwards, they're like, "Did you see such and such was watching you?" I'm like, "No, I'm so in a zone. I didn't
yeah.
even, I don't even
I'm
really."
there with my team, and that's the way I see it. You know, the way Rudy and Terry and all the boys in my team, I'm there
Mhm.
to look after Rudy, both, with his hands and then out in the ring, getting through all his 10 rounds, make sure he's okay. And that's what I do. Like, and
Yeah,
we're like a little family, same as what we have with the team where
yeah,
we do all the promotions. It's the same team. So all our promoters here that we work with know everybody because they've worked multiple times for them. So
yeah,
even if I'm not present at a show, one of the other senior team members knows exactly what should be happening and when it
right,
should be happening. And like the promoter has no issue with then coming to them if I'm not at that show. If it just happens that we have a number of shows running the same day and
right.
we've had to split the team around, that way they've all worked them, and they've all of my guys do a training program with
Hmm.
us before they sort of become like a senior co-person. We
Yeah.
call it the graduate program, and the
Mhm.
reason we do it is because it means they get like 150 shows a year from novice level right through to pro fight and on all
Right.
the combat sports. So like you can't tell somebody that's done 150 shows with, minimum 20 fights per show, that's 40 fighters a show,
Right.
wrapping that many hands, plus looking after that many fighters, that they don't know what they're doing when
Right.
they've actually physically done this for the last, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. But on the other side of that, if you're not open to pick up things and learn new skills as you do it, then you become very, stagnant, and you don't grow as a person, you don't grow as a cut woman or cut man, if that, and the
Right.
one thing with our team that we have is that we, at the end of every show, because for me, like you, I would be very critical of myself,
Yes.
very, very critical. Like, did I do that right? Did I? And still to this day, I am. I think it's a woman thing more than a man thing, because I don't think half the time they really give a damn,
No.
you know, at theirs.
No.
But whereas would, and I would be very much asking that question constantly, as would my team. But the guys on my team would be that way now inclined as well, because
Yeah.
they're around that constantly. So they see the difference where they wouldn't have at the start. They just would have rapped and then gone, see you later, bye.
Yes.
Not like that now, which is really good, because it shows like there is a softer side to it as well. And I
Hmm.
think because cut people wear so many hats on the day, so we're not just like, if especially if you're at an MMA show where you've 25 fights, that's 50 fighters. You've only a team of 4 people wrapping those hands, and you only have like a 2 hour bracket to do, 50 sets of hands
Right.
between 4 people. So you're trying, obviously to make sure their hand wraps are perfectly fine for them, because aesthetically is never the issue. It's once you make sure that they're comfortable and the formation of the wrap is right. Aesthetic, like everybody's eye is the aesthetics of a wrap will not suit everybody's eye, and that's
Exactly.
fine. It doesn't have to. It has to suit the fighter that's the hand
Exactly.
wraps, and that's all it has to. So when you're
Exactly.
doing, 50 people in 2 hours between 4 people, you're
Hmm.
trying not you're trying to make sure that you have that conversation with them, because that's the bond that you build up over the time,
Right.
and then you're going
Right.
to go out and they're going to sit in that cage and you're going to be in that corner with them. So they have to have some form of bond with you, no matter what way
Exactly.
you look at it. So we're lucky enough here that we build our bond with a lot of our Irish fighters, especially from novice level all the way to some of the biggest shows like Brave, the fighters that have gone on to PFL, UFC, that way, all this sort of stuff, even down to when they get hurt in the gym. I'm nearly called before the doctor is.
Yeah.
That way. So, and often there, recently I just went over to remove sutures from one of the fighters who got cut at a show just before Christmas. That way. So although we don't suture, I know how to suture and I've been taught how to suture, simply to have it in the gym, because I believe that suturing a fighter, from all the shows I've done, all the fighters I've worked with, especially around the eye area, suturing is much better for a fighter than gluing up a cut across the eyebrow.
Yeah.
And I've seen it because I've my own cuts there and they've never healed properly and have adhesions on them and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they were all glued. So you wear millions of hats inside and outside, as well as at a promotion and outside of a promotion. And many times I get text messages from fighters who I've looked after on big shows.
Yes.
Like Bellator, like Brave, and they've messaged me after the cut has been done and dusted, and they'll say, like, what can I use to help reduce the scar tissue, or have you anything that you can give me that, sort of, or just general, like, from your experience, and coming from a fighting background sort of helps as well.
Absolutely. So my final question to you, we have a few minutes left. What advice would you give to a woman that is interested or is looking to coming into the sport on not fighter perspective, but like I like to call them support staff, knowing all the negative, most, positive and negative that you've endured and faced, what advice would you give to a woman trying to get into this industry?
Go for it. Like, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of negativity within it for women. It is starting to obviously take that little pull back a little bit more. But if you're really, like, you have to love combat sports to be involved with combat sports.
Yes. Gotta stomach it.
You really have to, like, and you have to love it. It is not a job. And I say that very thing. It's not a job. It is a calling. And I believe as a cut man or cut woman, it is a calling, because you have to love it. Like, and it's not something that you're going to give up your career outside of it and just do it for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. I would love for it to do that. I would love to do this. And don't get me wrong, I've done it for a couple of years where I haven't had a secondary job or primary job in Ireland. But go for it. Get involved. Find, like, a good gym where you have that support, where you have a team of fighters there, whether they be amateur, novice, pro, or a mix of all of them, where you can come in, you can wrap their hands, you can look after them, you can practice your skill. Do a course with somebody who you've seen or watched or had really good reviews from. Don't just do a one-day course and think, I'm going to be in the UFC next week, because doesn't work like that. Unless you go fast, excuse my French, it doesn't work like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've got to be confident that you know what you're doing. Yes. Like, you cannot take any bullshit from anybody. And the other thing I say to every woman, and even a man that comes under, because obviously we've had a lot of men in our team, and we've had some who have been really shy, and it has helped them immensely with their confidence and built them up really well and stuff like that. But use your voice. Don't be afraid to use your voice. Like, don't be afraid to say it as it is. And don't be afraid to pull someone on their bullshit, because you do have to. I have so many times, like, and I'm not just talking about, like, don't get me wrong, a lot of fighters are divas, but their heart is in the right place. They're divas because they have to give that impression they're divas. But 99.9% of the time, when you are on a one-to-one with a fighter, there is no such thing as being a diva. They are just nervous. They know what they're signing up to do, but they still have nerves. Do you know that way?
Yeah, and at that moment, it's about them. At that moment.
100%. and
Mhm.
forget about you. But at the end of the day, like, you have to be able to call people on their bullshit. Like, you
Yes.
really, and I mean that in the nicest way possible.
Yep.
Like, I've had so many male promoters, referees, judges, people say, you know, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and you can't do this, and I'm like, that's bullshit. I can do
Yeah.
whatever I want. You know, I
Yep.
have been doing this for a long time. I love this sport, and if I feel that it's not right for the fighter, then by all means, I'm going to step out of my box and say it.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
for me, it's about the fighter first and foremost every single time. And if I think it's not right for a fighter, and I definitely feel they're not going to say something, I have no bones about saying it. You know that way, absolutely no bones about it.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's what we're there for.
yeah,
We're their advocate.
yeah,
So
join
yeah.
the movement. Do you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like, why not be a part? If you love the sport as much as clearly you do, I do, and I know
Yes.
so many other females, you know, in the cut world that absolutely love it. They say
Yeah.
the exact same thing, but if you don't take that step, you're never going to find out if you really want to be here.
100%.
You know.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. I saw you on Instagram, and I took the course with Joe Clifford,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
when I know that you all follow him, and you know him, you guys know each other, so that's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
following you.
yeah. I used to work with Joe a long time ago, so yeah,
Yeah. I so appreciate you taking the time to talk to me
absolutely
today.
no.
I wish you the best in everything that you're doing. I'm going to keep watching you because I'm always learning. You're
That's it.
OG to me, even though you don't like that
Oh, thank
term.
you. I'm not. It just makes me feel old. I still, my body tells me I'm old, but my brain tells me I'm not. So,
All right. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
absolutely, anytime. You know where I am if you need anything. Don't be afraid to ask. I'm always just a message away. So, and
Uh,
thank you for asking me on. I really appreciate it. It's nice to speak to another woman, even if you are a couple of thousand miles across the pond. So, it's nice to see you're doing so good yourself. So,
thank you so much. I'm trying my
you're more
best.
than welcome.
Trying my best.
Enjoy.
All right. Thank you.
You.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Take
Bye
care.
bye. See you
Bye. Bye.
later.
Bye.
I appreciate Jess Isaacson for joining me today for our Cutwoman discussion in combat sports. You can like, subscribe, and share my podcast on women's influence in boxing, or now encompassing all combat sports, whether it's MMA, Muay Thai, bare knuckle. Our next episode should drop sometime next week. You can follow Jess at Cutwoman Jess on Instagram, and you can find me on Instagram at PMAT1. That's PMAT1 on Instagram. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon. Bye.